Hello, I welcome you to another exciting time in government class today. I am Paul Okeke and I will be your government teacher. Today we're looking at the topic authority. Well, political authority under the theme political concepts and principles. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to do the following: define political authority, identify the sources of political authority, and distinguish between these two concepts, political authority and power. In politics and in government, certain concepts are said to have different meanings than they have in everyday usage. Some of such concepts are power and authority. While these two concepts mean something totally different in everyday language, they, however, have a very serious implication in politics. Let us look at the definition of authority and see how it is different from everyday usage. Or perhaps let us see what makes it different as to when you say it or discuss about it with your friends. The term authority has its origin from the Latin word auctoritas, and it simply means opinion or power. Hence, we can define authority as the ability to command thoughts or behavior. However, a much more detailed definition of authority in government is that it is defined as the formal or legal right to make and enforce laws or policies which citizens must obey. The general idea behind authority is that certain individuals or an individual is empowered by the general public to stand in authority to make or decree certain laws which everyone is subject to. In politics and in government, there are various types of authorities. Let us take a look at what these authorities are and their meaning. The first is charismatic authority. What is charismatic authority? Have you ever admired somebody for how they speak or how they act? If the answer is yes, this person is said to have a charisma which attracts everyone to them. How does this relate to authority and how is this a type of authority? Charisma is a type of authority because there are certain individuals or leaders who have the power to sway or to influence people's actions based on how they act, how they speak, or sometimes it may just be merely smiling and it just gets everyone doing what they bid. Have you seen a scenario where someone is so angry, like about doing something, and then someone comes and smiles at them, and then they just like become so happy at what they didn't want to do? That person is said to be a charismatic leader because it means that that person's ordinary smile has been able to influence or affect that person's decision making. Secondly, we have traditional authority. From the word, you could tell what it means. Traditional authority is a type of authority that is derived from the traditions and customs of a people. Take, for instance, there are various ethnic groups in Nigeria. The practices embedded in these ethnic groups often are seen as a type of authority because people obey such traditions and customs. One of them is, for instance, the customs of a people or their traditions has given their leaders the right to make certain laws. When these laws are made by these leaders or rulers, they are not obeyed because these people said so, but rather they are obeyed because the traditions and practices of these cultures are said to give them legal or formal backing. Moving forward, let us also look at another type of authority, which is positional authority. This type of authority can be defined as an authority gotten from the position occupied or held. For example, elected officials such as the president, governors, or even local government chairmen, they are said to occupy these positions because they are elected by the people to make certain laws and also enforce these laws. These people are respected because of the office they occupy. This makes positional authority one of the most common forms of authority or types of authority. Another type of authority is coercive authority. From the word coercion, you can tell that this is a type of authority that appeals to the use of force to cause obedience. This is one of the most common types of authority, particularly because it is often used by the government most of the time. A very good example of coercive authority is when there is an illegal protest. And by illegal protest, we mean protests that have not been approved by the government. What the government does in such situations is that it sends the armed forces to disperse this protest. However, these protesters are often said to be dealt with carefully because they also have a right to protest, howbeit just not granted or approved by the government. Lastly, on the types of authority, we have political authority. Political authority is a type of authority that comes from occupying a political position or office. This type of authority grants political office holders the right to make and enforce laws. And sometimes, in order to enforce these laws, force is applied if necessary. Howbeit, this is a type of authority that naturally comes from individuals holding political positions. Now, moving forward, political authority does not just appear from the air, or rather, it does not just fall on anyone. There are sources which are responsible for why certain individuals are said to be in authority. Some of the sources of political authority in government include the following: customs and traditions. The customs, values, and norms of a people serve as a source of authority. Why so? It is often said that people are much more drawn to their traditions than they are to any other belief system. When the customs and traditions of a particular people states what should be done and what should not be done, these are held in high esteem, and also there are individuals or rulers who are made to be custodians of such laws, who are often regarded as obis, obas, and emirs. These individuals are said to be custodians of these traditions because they ensure that these traditions not only die, but are passed from one generation to another. So, customs and traditions is one genuine source of authority. Another source of authority is the Constitution. What is a constitution, you may ask? A constitution is a written or an unwritten legal code binding on people who reside in a particular geographical location. In other words, a country like Nigeria is said to have a written constitution because all of the laws which dictate how governments and non-governments are to behave are all stated in a formal book. How is the constitution a source of authority? The constitution is a source of authority because it is what gives the president and other elected officials the right to make and enforce laws, sometimes even to apply force in ensuring that these laws are not only enforced, but are also obeyed. So you can say that the Constitution is one of the most genuine sources of authority. Lastly, we have charisma. We've talked about charisma earlier. Although this is not a genuine source of authority according to many people, but however, charisma as a source of authority was championed by the German scholar Max Weber. According to Max Weber, there are certain leaders or individuals who are said to be highly admired because of the way they carry themselves in public. Basically, we can say that charisma as a source of authority refers to the fact that certain people have a certain character that makes people naturally not only drawn to them, but also respectful to them. Like we said earlier, charisma is not a genuine source of authority because it can be misleading. For instance, a person can be putting up a make-believe, but behind the scene, they are not totally what they present to be in public. I'm sure you understand what that means. What it means is that some people, they have two lives. They have a public life and they have a private life. Their public life is painted to be so admirable and respectable, but behind, when you get so close, they are not what they seem to be in public. Going further, one of the objectives of this lesson is that we'll distinguish between power and authority. Power and authority, although are similar concepts even in government, they, however, are not the same. While power may be defined as the capacity to affect another person's behavior through the use of sanction, authority is said to be the legal or formal right to make and enforce laws. Now, why authority is not the use of force in order to compel obedience? It is so because the Constitution clearly states such laws which are to be obeyed by the people and the consequences which follows should these laws not be obeyed. But this is different for power because an individual does not necessarily need to be in government or to be an elected official before they can be seen to be powerful. Let us look at some of the most visible differences between power and authority. One of the major differences between these two concepts is in their definition. As we have said, Power is defined as the capacity to affect behavior through the use of threat of sanction, while authority is said to be the legal or formal backings to make and enforce laws which citizens must obey. Another difference between these two concepts is that power does not necessarily need to follow a hierarchy. What do we mean by this? In other words, a person cannot be said to be powerful today and less powerful tomorrow because of their position or order in a particular hierarchy. So an individual can be less powerful today and the next minute they are over powerful because of economic reasons or social standings. But in authority, it is not so. Government officials or public elected officials, for instance, are said to follow a hierarchy before they increase in their ranks. So for instance, in public corporations, you have different hierarchies, and usually there are those at the bottom who someday wish to be at the top, because it is only those at the top that are said to enjoy more rights compared to those at the bottom. Another difference between these two is that power can be gotten through economic or social status. What this means is that anyone can be powerful if they just have money in the simple sense of the word, or if they have a high-profile social standing, they can be said to be powerful. There are some people who are powerful because they are wealthy. There are also some people who are powerful because they are popular. Ask yourself, which one would you rather choose? To be powerful because you have money, or to be powerful because you are known by the people? But then, sometimes, fame does not necessarily mean that someone is rich. So if you ask me, I think I'll probably go for being powerful because I'm rich, or because I'm popular. I mean, it's not a contest. However, for authority, this is not so. Authority cannot be gotten through economic or social status, but can only be gotten as a result of position which an individual occupies. We have come to the end of this class, but just before we go, let us take a quick recap of all that we have done. We started by saying that authority may be defined as the formal or legal right to make and enforce laws which people must obey. Also, we went further to look at some types of authority, and we said they are charismatic authority, traditional authority, and positional authority. Going further, we said that authority comes from various sources. However, in government, some of the sources we mentioned include customs and traditions, the Constitution, and charisma. We also said that authority and power are two different concepts in government, even though they are used interchangeably in everyday language. Lastly, we said that some key differences between power and authority is that power does not follow a hierarchy, but for authority, a hierarchy has to be in place before a person can graduate from one level of rights to the other. Now, let us test our knowledge on what we have learned so far with these questions. Question 1. Which of the following describes authority? Option A, the right of government or elected individuals to make and enforce laws without approval. Option B, the legal right of government or elected officials to make and enforce laws. Or option C, the act of government or individuals to affect a person's behavior with threat of sanction. The correct answer to that question is option B. We define authority as the legal right of government or elected officials to make and enforce laws. Question 2. Dash is a source of authority that empowers obas, emirs, and obis to make and enforce laws. Option A, the Constitution. Option B, traditions and customs. Or option C, charisma. If your answer was option C, charisma, your answer was wrong. The correct answer is option B, traditions and customs. I hope you can now define political authority if you are asked to do so. And also, if you are asked to identify some of the sources of political authority, you also know just what to say. Until I come your way again next time, bye.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to our channel. You can also turn on notifications to stay updated on new videos on this channel. This brain friend video was brought to you by Synforest. For more of these amazing e-learning videos, get your copy of BrainFriend. With more than 1,000 e-learning videos, over 74,000 test items in more than 40 subjects, a career counseling guide, and many other amazing features, BrainFriend remains your foremost e-learning and exam preparatory software. BrainFriend. Learn better, make excellent grades.